First cry of the revolution. The first cry of the revolution remains unsolved due to the different dates and places that were mentioned by different eyewitnesses of the event. These include Pio Valenzuela's cry of Pugadlawin, Santiago Alvarez, the cry of Bahay Turo, Gregoria de Jesus' first cry, Guillermo Masangkay, the cry of Balintawak. The first cry is a historical event where the Filipinos tore their cedulas, which for Andres Bonifacio is the sign of the slavery of the Filipinos to the Spaniards. This Philippine Revolution of 1896 happened after the secret organization of the Filipinos of the Katipunan was exposed to the Spaniards and the members were tracked and many were imprisoned. With regards to this situation, the Supremo became worried about these comrades and their ultimate goal to the compromise. Bonifacio decided to hold a meeting outside the city with the agenda of when to carry out their plan to attack the Spanish government. In 1911, a monument of the heroes of the Philippine Revolution that was believed to happen there on August 26 was built in Balintawak. However, the different Katipunan personalized contradicted the time and the place of the first cry of the Philippine Revolution. Among them were Pio Valenzuela, Santiago Alvarez, and Guillermo Masangkay. Cry of Pugadlawin, Pio Valenzuela, one of the surviving witnesses of the cry of Pugadlawin, and this is confirmed by the list drawn up by Guillermo Masangkay. Only doctor participating in the cry. Not known for having impeccable memory, this is demonstrated with his recollection of his meeting with Rizal at Dapitan, months before the launch of the revolution. His confusing statements threw doubt to the cry itself. In his first version, he said that the cry was in Balintawak on Wednesday of August 26, 1896. Later, he wrote his memoirs of the revolution and claimed that the cry took place at Pugadlawin on August 23, 1896. Based on the accounts of Pio Valenzuela, a friend of Bonifacio and a member of the Katipunan, the first place of refuge of the Katipunan was in Balintawak, specifically at the house and yard of Apolonio Samson at Kangkong on August 22, 1896. Among himself were Andres Bonifacio, Procopio Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, Teodora Plata, and Agildo del Rosario. There was no big decision made there, rather only views were exchanged. It was in the storehouse and yard of Juan Ramos at Pugadlawin on August 23, 1896, where they debated whether the revolution against the Spanish government was to be started or not on August 29, 1896. Only Teodoro Plata protested and fought against a war. After the intense debate, the people tore their cedula certificates and shouted, "Long live the Philippines! Long live the Philippines!" Cry of Bahay Turo, Santiago Alvarez. Another version of the cry which launched the Philippine Revolution is written by Santiago Alvarez. Alvarez was not an eyewitness of the historic event, although he was in Cavite at that time. This is his version of the first cry. This version of the cry was written by Santiago Alvarez, a well-known Katipunero from Cavite and a son of Mariano Alvarez. Santiago is a relative of Gregoria de Jesus, who happened to be the wife of Andres Bonifacio. Unlike the author of the first version mentioned, Valenzuela, Santiago Alvarez is not an eyewitness of this event. As a result, this version of him is not given of equal value as compared with the other version, for authors of other accounts are actually part of the historic event. Sunday, August 23, 1896, as early as 10 o'clock in the morning, at the barn of Cabezang Melchora, Melchora Aquino Z, at a place called Sampalucan, barrio of Bahay Turo, Katipuneros met together. About 500 of these arrived. Monday, August 24, 1896. There were about 1,000 Katipunero. The Supremo decided to hold a meeting inside the big barn. Under this leadership, the meeting began at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was 12 o'clock noon when the meeting adjourned amidst loud cries of "Long live the son of country! Mabuhay ang mga anak ng bayan!" First cry, Gregoria de Jesus, one of the participants in the drama of the Philippine Revolution of 1896 was Gregoria de Jesus, custodian of secret documents, seal, and weapons. Bonifacio and his men gathered in the hills of Balintawak for the War of Liberation. According to her version of the first cry, it occurred near Caloocan on August 25, 1896. This version was written by no other than the Lacambini of the Katipunan and wife of Andres Bonifacio, Gregoria de Jesus. She has been a participant of this event and became the keeper of the secret documents of the Katipunan. After the revolution, in August 1896, she lived with her parents in Caloocan, then fled to Manila when she was told that Spanish authorities wanted to arrest her. Eventually, she joined her husband in the mountains and shared adversities with him. In her account, the first cry happened near Caloocan on August 25, 1896. The Cry of Balintawak, Guillermo Masangkay. The first cry of revolution happened in Balintawak at the house of Apolonio Samson on August 26, 1896. 9 o'clock in the morning, the board of directors held a meeting for the final date of uprising. Bonifacio went outside the hall and talked to the people waiting outside. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Spaniards were coming to them as their organization was discovered and they are all marked men. Claim cedulas were torn more than once, August 24 and August 26. Guillermo R. Masangkay was one of the original members of the Katipunan. He was designated to build the KKK in Cavite. His accounts contribute to our understanding of the cry of Balintawak and the death of Bonifacio. He was also a general in the Philippine-American War. He strongly supported the erection of the Bonifacio Monument and contributed 10,000 of his personal money for the effort. The Cry of Balintawak, ang contrived controversy. Soledad Borromeo Buller, descendant of Guillermo Masangkay, supporter of the notion of two cries. What supports this claim is the supposed meeting that took place before the cry, and the supposed battle that took place after the cry. She concludes the cry of Pugadlawin, as we know today, is the Hawks. The first cry of revolution, cry for freedom and independence, the need to fight in order to prove themselves worthy to be called a truly free people.